Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7. Today is going to be my usual weekly patch review sort of thing. A little late, about 12 hours later than usual. I needed to sleep, and mostly because there wasn't much to talk about this time. So instead of just going over the actual patch, what we're going to do is kind of talk about KAWERIK a little bit, see if you should pull them, and maybe how to gear them, combinations you might want to use them with, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's start off just by going through the patch notes here. We obviously have KAWERIK coming. We'll look at his skills and everything later, but let's take a look at the artifact. We've talked about this before, and I honestly have no idea what to think about this artifact. In theory, it helps you hit 100% crit on one of your characters, but also at the same time, it's a mage exclusive. Mages have insane artifacts already. And 24% crit chance at the start of battle. Feels like it's meant for a cleaver of sorts, or somebody that has a really important first turn, and at the same time somebody that has that really important first turn is really going to want to have the like damage boosting artifact, you know, like the portrait, the anything, Caladra if you have buffs. I don't even know, just something that increases damage, and this doesn't really do that in a sense. It does kind of, but it doesn't at the same time. I'm not sure what to entirely think about this one. I think it'll need some testing. Obviously, some people will find use for it, just like some people have found use for Ella and Sinox's Rage, but I feel like it's just less good than a lot of the other ones are, especially in the prolonged long-term battle. And then you have to kind of gauge if you wanted to just stay at the 12%, so you have that 88% plus 12% crit up to 100% on the minimum, or if you want to risk it and go down to 76% and then be 12% under on the later turns. That's probably what I would do. And again, another thing we have to consider, especially for ones like this where it's just such raw stats and such a large amount of raw stats, that the difference between a 15, which is basically unusable IMO, versus a 30 is massive. So if you're going to be using this artifact, you're probably going to need so many of them. Like, you're probably going to need at least, I would say, like level 24 to level 30 of this to really get a use out of it, IMO, especially compared to the 4-star and 5-star ones you might already have. So keep that in mind. Like, you've got to look at the 12% and 6% instead of the 24 and 12. And then we have his side story here. As a side note, I'm actually kind of baffled. I'm literally baffled that, not surprised, baffled. I'm absolutely expectant that they screwed up a lottery event. For those of you that haven't played other gacha games, lottery events like the one we just had in Epic 7 where you fill out the storyboard are generally the most liked events and the ones that people look forward to. I don't know how Epic 7 managed to screw up this event, this lottery event, but they did, and people hated it. So that's kind of surprising to me. I was really excited to get more lottery events, because in theory, they're the most fun out of all the events, IMO. But after the reception of this one, I don't think that's going to be a thing. So we're going back to the good old shop here, which I find relatively boring, but hopefully his story is worthwhile to take a look at. They're also going to add statistics for Abyss 91 to 100. This will really help out IMO. I really like how they're adding this. It's really cool to see what teams other people use, especially when you get to the higher floors like 100. It'll be interesting to see there. Yeah, and that's it for the patch today. So let's take a look at KAWERIK. So KAWERIK is a Virgo mage, attack percent imprint, and whether or not you should summon for him, 1306 attack. So he's going to have a brutal amount of attack. Basically 0 health, as all mages do. 119 base speed, which is pretty baller fast. 652 defense, actually not too bad on the defense there. 23% crit chance, so he does get 8% through his awakening. That is very fantastic. And as for his abilities, his turn 1 here has a 75% chance to silence for 1 turn. I think this goes up to 100%. I'm never really sure how they lay it out here. It's actually probably better in this post to look at. Yeah, it's actually better in this post for me to look at. So 75% chance to silence, and that is Molagorod. And then Dimensional Corridor here has the 75% chance, and that's the up to 100% chance with all the Morlagora there to dispel a buff and then increase skill cooldown by 1 turn twice. And all you really need to do is have one of those hit. So, interesting. A really good way to shut down Basar, as a lot of people are theorizing. And not just Basar, but a lot of other units that aren't water. Pretty much anybody that isn't ice, he's going to be able to shut down. It also increases the speed of the caster by 2 turns when he uses it. And again, damage dealt increases proportionate to target speed, not his on this. As for his skill 3, it is an AoE damage. I'm positive it's AoE, not like Sirmia, with penetrates defense by 30% when the caster hasn't granted increased speed. And also it damage dealt increases proportionate to the caster's speed. So he's got kind of an awkward skill set where it doesn't entirely work the way you want it to work on his first turn unless you have somebody else interacting with him. For example here, his Dimensional Corridor is often what you want to use to shut down people, and Dimensional Explosion is skill 3, kind of acts like a cleave, but in order for it to do enough damage to cleave, and his multipliers are actually pretty solid by the way, enough damage to cleave, he needs to have increased caster's speed on himself, so he needs a speed buff on himself. He can give it to himself, but he can't give himself another turn, and going first and then cleaving once your turn is back a second time just isn't something that's worth it, IMO. So I think there's going to be a couple options with his starting option if people want to use him as an offensive cleave. I think one, you can have him faster than your Oxlots or something like that, and have him skill 2, and then Oxlots him up to skill 3 Dimensional Explosion with attack buff and with speed buff. Another option is obviously somebody like Yuna first, and then just ignore skill 2. Another option is to use somebody like Ruzid as well. There's a ton of things you can do, and you can ruse it into attack buffer as well. There's a ton of options you can do, and I'm not sure if any of them are better than what we have. So I guess that's something we'll see as we go on here. And keep in mind that he cannot burn his skill 3. This is both beneficial and not at the same time, because if he can do the damage without burning, that saves you a mage slot. But at the same time, you really need those burns. Those burns add so flippin' much damage, it's ridiculous. But a lot of people aren't thinking about him for offense, even though I think that's kind of where I would like to use him, like a controlling offense situation in Guild Wars or Arena. By the way, not PvE at all. I can't really see many uses to PvE for this unit, so if you're not a PvPer, I would skip pretty much 100%. Ignoring Husbando, of course. So a lot of people are theorizing that he's going to stop Basar in defense. Like, one of the posts on the subreddit was finally an end to Basar or something like that, or Basar, your time has come. And that kind of, I'm skeptical. I don't think that's the case. So if you are pulling him just to stop Basar, and just so you don't get hit by Basars anymore, and just so you can attack Basars on offense, be really careful about that, and maybe wait a week to see how he performs and transitions the meta, because I don't know if he's meta changing. He's designed to be meta changing, but I don't know if he actually will be. And the reason being, a lot of people right now don't even bother to cleave with their Basar. A lot of people just do exactly what I do, and that is build up a tank team and then just auto their arena. I do that really successfully in the 5200 range for PvP, and I've asked a lot on stream and on my Discord, and there's a lot of similar teams going on. And if you look at who attacks you, I'm often attacked more so by the tanky teams than I am by the Basar teams. So take a look at what's hitting you and what other people are using to attack, and realize if you take your Basar out of your defense or something like that, and then you put KAWERIK instead, realize that all those people that are already autoing arena are going to laugh in the face of KAWERIK. KAWERIK is going to do actually basically 0 to them. In fact, it'll probably help them because a lot of them are using Elena, so Elena is just going to take the AoE damage, boost herself up, and then skill 3 and heal everything back, and everything's a-okay. So if you are thinking about replacing your Basar with your KAWERIK, just be careful. That's all I'm trying to say, because like, I feel like if you do that, you're going to get hit infinitely more than you are now. There's also, of course, the opportunity to use KAWERIK and Basar on the same team. That might work really well. Shut down their Basar, get your Basar going. And RTA as well, he's going to be a monster, I think. Yeah, so this is a really hard scenario for me. Because me personally, I think it's not going to really affect too much in PvP and in Arena, where I would expect it to or where other people are telling me it's going to affect. But that's just because I attack in a certain way and I kind of pretend Basar doesn't exist on my offense. And I think so many other people do. So what I'm trying to say, as I talk about it in a roundabout way for however many minutes we've been talking about this, is if you are doing your summons on KAWERIK just specifically to counter Basar, maybe wait a couple days and see how it works out. I know that's impossible to do. Me personally, I am going to be skipping KAWERIK, which sucks because I absolutely love his design. He's one of my favorite types of husbandos. I love everything about him. I love the highlights in his hair. I love his arm. I love his outfit. I love his cape. I love everything. Unfortunately, I'm halfway to pity on my 6th series still without an artifact, and I'm out of resources, so I'm just 0% of any resource right now, so I just legit can't do it. And also keep in mind, if you're short on bookmarks, that there is a very good chance we get a collab in the next coming months. Whenever we finish this chapter 2, I think there's a very, very good chance that we get a collab. Also, keep in mind, summer is coming up, and with summer comes bikinis, so there's also a very, very good chance both that SSB gets reran, and also that the limited Part 2, SSB Part 2 comes out. So just keep that in mind when you're planning to spend for KAWERIK here. And also, the fact that, the thought that his artifact is not really as potentially good as some others kind of pushes me against summoning him. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. I hope this helped you out. Maybe it confused you a little bit. Maybe we can have some people in chat, in Twitch, in YouTube comments, Mango. Come on, get it together. I haven't drank my coffee yet. Maybe we can have some people in the YouTube comments tell me why I'm wrong here constructively, because I'm really, really curious to see, and I'm really curious to see the impact of KAWERIK on the meta. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as always, and if you don't, KAWERIK's gonna take you 121 and you're gonna cry. Bye.